Welcome back to another episode of A Gift from Adversity. My name is Juri Love. I'm your host. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today, we are recording episode 137. Before I introduce our guest, I want to introduce my book, which is the same title as this podcast. It's called A Gift from Adversity by Juri Love, Juri Love. The subtitle of this book is Overcoming Sexual Abuse, Domestic Violence, Bullying, and Homelessness. It's available on Amazon. So if you search on Amazon, A Gift from Adversity by Juri Love, you can see the book. I published this book in 2020. And after I published the book, I got a lot of messages from all over the world, people sharing their stories, and I felt compelled to start a podcast and this platform where people can come in and speak about their adversities. But not only that, the tools that they use to overcome and a gift that came from it. I'm very grateful to have so many wonderful guests so far. So let's invite today's guest. Hello, Shanti. How are you doing?
I am great, Juri. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's start from where your name, where you coming in from, and then what you do, and if you have any social media or website that you want to promote.
Absolutely. My name is Shawnti Refuge. If you know me already, I go by Journal Bay. I'm a certified mental health coach, mental health advocate, keynote speaker, and author. And I have a series of guided journals that are topic specific to help the user to overcome any issue that they're having, from ranging from self love, self awareness, and all of that. And my social media, I am on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, uh, Facebook. I'm on all of those same Shanti Refuge journals.
Well, thank you, Shanti. And then where are you coming in from?
I'm sorry, Houston. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Got it. I'm in Massachusetts. So thank you and welcome to our show from Houston, Texas.
Yes.
So let's dive into our first question, which is the adversity. So can you tell our audience what was your adversity?
My adversity was back in 2018. I had what you would call a mental breakdown or a nervous breakdown. And I did not know that's what it was I was having at the time. All I knew is that I woke up one morning and I was not myself. I was angry, crying, cursing, just acting erratic. And I couldn't control the behavior. I couldn't control my emotions. And I thought maybe I was in a funk. So I said, okay, it'll pass, but it didn't pass. It's like each day it got worse. Mad, angry, screaming, throwing things, crying, withdrawn, sad. I was doing the most. And it took me about a month before I decided to get help. And the first place I knew to go was to my family doctor, my family practice doctor. She had been my doctor for like 10 years. And I told her what was going on with me. And she said, "Oh, it sounds like you're a little depressed. Let me give you some antidepressants." And she gave me the antidepressants. And, I didn't want that. I wanted her to tell me why I was acting the way I was acting. And of I didn't know at the time she was not trained for that. You know, medical doctors prescribe medicine, my family practice doctor, So I took him because I trusted her. We had a long term relationship. It's okay. She can't be wrong, but, she was wrong. And so she gave them to me and told me to come back in 6 weeks and tell her how I did on them. And, I took them, but it had no effect on me at all whatsoever. It's like, and then keep in mind, my symptoms kept getting worse and worse and worse. I was to the point where I felt like I was going to be physically aggressive. I was already being verbally aggressive, So, I had to, calm myself down. Like, look, Shawnti, you're gonna get arrested if you start getting physical. So I told her, I went back and told her, like, this isn't working. So she gave me a higher dose of antidepressants. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take them, but I don't want this. But I took them, and she said, come back in 6 weeks. And I did. And I told her, look, we have to do something. You have to do something. This is not working because whatever she was giving me didn't work. It's like I wasn't taking anything, like a vitamin or something. And so she said, well, I'm not saying something's wrong with you, but I need you to go see a psychiatrist. So I went to see a psychiatrist a month later because it took a month to get an appointment. So keep in mind, my emotions were still, I was ruining my relationships, my marriage, it was awful because of the way I was acting, but I could not control it. Um, so when I went to the psychiatrist and told them what was going on, they gave me more antidepressants. And I was like, I do not want these. I want to know why, the why. And she said, well, I think you might need to go see a therapist. And I went to go see a therapist. I'm going to stop right there.
So Shanti, continue what happened after therapist.
Okay. My first therapist that I found, I didn't know where to look for a therapist at because I'd never been, I've never seen a therapist before. People in my community, we were taught to not go see a therapist, not go see a psychiatrist. So I didn't know where to go. So I went to Google. I Googled a therapist, and, I chose my therapist based off of their name and their picture because I wanted an African American, therapist, and I didn't want her to be too young or too old. And so I thought I found a good one. And that first one that I found, it took a couple of months for me to realize, hey, she's not helping you. It's like I would tell her my issues, tell her what's going on, tell her my behaviors, and she wasn't providing any solutions, any skills. She wasn't helping me at all. It's like she was just I was entertaining her basically. That's what it felt like. So when I realized that, I said, okay, she's not the one. So I let her go. So keep in mind, I'm still acting the way that I'm acting. I'm still having to function. And, I was going to work, coming home, doing the best that I could, but I was a mess. I was a mess. And so I found another therapist. This one was again African American. She was younger than me, but I didn't think she would be too much younger. I wasn't quite sure of her age. So I met with her on the initial consultation. And when it came, and I told her everything that was happening. And when it came time to make the follow up appointments, she ghosted me. She never contacted, yeah, she never contacted me back. I would call, I would email, hey, I need to set up my appointment. And she just did not respond. And of course, the condition that I was in at the time, that added to me having abandonment issues because nobody's ever done that before. And so I hesitated a little bit because, when you go to switch therapists, you have to tell your story over and over and over again. And I was tired of talking about it. I wanted help for it. So I finally found my third therapist, and that therapist actually helped me. I told her about the previous two therapists, and I was already prepared for her to leave me. I told her, I said, I'm gonna tell you what's going on, but I already know you're gonna leave me just like the last one did, or you're not gonna help me like the first one did. And I gave her much attitude, but she stuck with me, and she did eventually help me.
And what was the diagnosis?
I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. It took 3 therapists to get that diagnosis.
And also the PCP, your primary care doctor, family doctor didn't know, psychiatrist didn't know. They just didn't really dig into what's going on.
No, they were quick to give me antidepressants and not help me figure out where's it coming from, how it started, how and all that. So yeah, it was the third therapist that helped me.
So when you got final diagnosed, how did you feel?
relieved that I thought I was going crazy, like for real. And I was relieved because there was a name attached to it. So once she told me, okay, you have severe depression and anxiety, all right, let's fix it without drugs. I didn't want medication at all, because medication to me, it doesn't help you heal, it just numbs you. And I'm not against medication, but I didn't want that for me. I wanted to find out, why am I crying? Why am I sad? Why am I mad? Why do I want to knock somebody upside their head? I wanted to know why I was doing those things, and she was able to help me.
Did you guys find out what was causing the depression and anxiety?
Yep. She had me talk about the my earliest memory of childhood, and that's where it started. And after weeks of, I would go to her once a week, and each week it was like I was peeling back layers of everything that led up to me having a nervous breakdown. And from childhood up until 2018, I had gone through a lot of things, and at that time I didn't know it was traumatic. But until I got into therapy, and I told her my story, she's like, yes, that's traumatic. Yes, that's traumatic. This is why you're doing this. This is why you're doing that. So it made sense. It helped me to understand, and the bottom line was, I had gone through some things that I had never talked about. I was just holding it in. And that's what led to the nervous breakdown.
So what were these traumas that you started to recognize after seeing a therapist?
I had child abuse trauma. I didn't think it was abuse back then. I just thought, hey, I'm getting a spanking. But looking back, yes, that was child abuse. I was my mom was a victim of domestic violence, and so that made sense that she would take her frustrations out on me because she couldn't fight her partner at the time. And it didn't make it right, but it made sense. Okay, this is why she's doing this. So I witnessed that growing up, her, being in a domestic violent relationship. I was a teen mom. I had my first child when I was 14. I didn't realize that was traumatic, but looking back, it's like, yes, that's traumatic because I'm essentially a kid. I was in the eighth grade, and I'm sitting here having a baby. So yes, that's very traumatic. Me and my daughter, we grew up together. We grew up like sisters, mostly because we were, 14 years apart. And I made some bad choices. I got arrested when I was 16. I got arrested when I was 16 for shoplifting, and I didn't shoplift because I wanted to, because I had to. I did it because I wanted to. It was fun for me. I always did not so smart things. And that led up until probably 2009 or 10. I was just making bad decision after bad decision. I got married to my second child's father because my mom wanted me to. I never wanted to get married. And I did because she wanted me to. And that essentially led me to making a lot of decisions just because somebody else wanted me to. And that was traumatic for me, not living my true self. I'm doing what everybody else wanted me to do, people pleasing and things like that. So, and she was able to help me get all of that out and realize that that was traumatic for me.
And what else happened?
Let's see. I got a divorce 6 months after I got married because I couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not living a lie. I didn't want to live the rest of my life in a lie. So I ended up coming out as a lesbian, and I came out to my mom and dad and like, look, I don't like men. I was just doing things because I thought other people wanted me to do it, or because people wanted me to do it. I didn't have a mind of my own, and I didn't know that I had a voice. I didn't know that I was able to make my own decisions. So that damaged me a lot. And once I realized that, I was able to, face it, acknowledge the parts that I played in some of those situations. Of course, I couldn't control the child abuse and domestic violence stuff, but I was able to acknowledge me having sex, at an early age I should not have been, and um, I did finish school though. I was adamant about that. I graduated high school and, I went on to get my bachelor's and my master's. I started being an overachiever to prove to myself and I think to my family that I'm not going to be that person that you said I was going to be.
And when you came out as a lesbian, how did your parents take?
I actually thought my daddy was going to have a stroke, but he was okay. He was like, okay. That was his response when I told him. And then when I told my mom, she was like, I already know, but I love you anyway.
What did she say?
She said she already knew. Yep, she said, I already know, but I love you anyway. I said, well, I'm like, why did I go through all this stuff then if you already knew? That's me thinking this. But, at that time, I wasn't strong enough to confront, everybody. But it wasn't until after therapy that I was able to, learn that yes, you do have a voice. Yes, you can say, yes, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do this. So therapy helped me a lot.
And how about your friends and then people around you, like work, when you came out like lesbian, like the people you knew before, especially, children and, the like especially not your immediate family, but people, like, did they like, were they okay or?
Oh no. I mean, the only person that I know for sure was affected was my middle sister. Back then I think she was still my baby sister back then. I have two sisters and we have a huge gap between all three of us. But she I think she was in denial because it was rumored and I hadn't confirmed it yet. I told my best friend first, and she essentially told another family member, and they went and told everybody. So it's like I had to. I felt like I was forced to go and tell everybody, confirm it or whatever, because it came out before I really wanted to come out. But it's fine now. Nobody treats me any differently. Nobody's ever treated me any differently.
That's packed challenges that you
Mhm.
didn't really realize until you had this nervous breakdown and until you start to see a therapist and to try to understand. Same thing, like I had no idea what PTSD was. I had no idea what child sex abuse was until I
Mhm.
was 22,
Mhm.
22, 23. Because prior to that, like I had this like horrible attitude and a rebel and
Yep.
um, no idea what was causing, but I knew it was about my father
Mm.
who abused me, and I just couldn't figure out, and I felt like it was a puzzle that has like no answer, but it felt like I go back to the same place, which is my dad, and then without, like you said, therapy or like a logical understanding of what happened to me, what was
Mhm.
traumatic itself, I completely understand why you had this depression and anxiety, but you didn't know why.
Mhm.
Because I think it has to be taught that it's not okay. It's not something that you do to a child, like abuse, for instance, like sex abuse.
Right.
But when you are in it, you have no comparison and you have no other life because it's your immediate family member doing it to you. So if it's like external person trying to assault you or abuse you, you kind of recognize it
Right.
because it's not your mom or dad. But if
Mhm.
it's your mom or dad, especially, trying to have sex with you or, punch you, whatever, you just get so confused and you kind of angelizes, justify, um, what happened was okay because
Mhm.
they love me, and
Right.
it's the way to protect yourself. So one time my therapist was telling me, this is when I was like 26, like 20 years ago,
Mhm.
but I had no idea. Just to share with you and then our audience that, um, I tend to kind of justify what my mom did, but then the therapist said that just like you told me, oh no, that is traumatic. Oh,
Mhm.
that is not okay. But I said it the way that, yeah, but blah blah blah. Like I always try to come up with a reason to justify what she has done. And then my therapist said, no, 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 that caused you PTSD too. And then I learned that, for instance, if two parents, one was really bad, and then one has to be somehow good. So even
Mhm.
both are bad, as a child, you can't survive if both parents are bad. So you kind of try
Right.
angelize, the one person who ever, even if it's abusive situation. So it's interesting. She said, you can not love a statute, you need to accept what it is until you can really love somebody or accept somebody. So that was kind of interesting metaphor.
Mhm.
That means everybody has like flaws and then good and bad, and nobody's perfect. So you cannot angelize, justify somebody, even if it's your one person that's supposed to protect you.
Mhm.
I had no idea. So I just want you and the audience to know, a lot of people who's suffering with depression and anxiety, sometimes like we have no idea until somebody tells me, hey, that was actually called abuse. Hey,
Exactly.
that was called trauma.
Yep.
Because as a child, how can you survive when everything is hell and have no other escape, no other comparison? Like your case, when you're 14 and then when you have a baby, what's the other choice? You don't. And then you don't think it's traumatic because that's what you have. But
Mhm.
then looking back, think about the eighth grader right now having a child. That's so,
Yes.
so hard. That's so traumatic. And having to deal with other students at school when you are a kid.
Right?
Yeah.
So just
That
imagine me walking down the hall to my classes, Shawnti, you pregnant? You pregnant? And I couldn't say no because I was showing, so you could see it. Yep.
how did you deal with that? Did you get bullied, teased?
I didn't get bullied or teased at all. I just ignored people. I ignored them. And then later on, I got moved to another class, and come to find out, the class was full of girls just like me who were either pregnant or had their babies already. So we were all in one big class together. Yeah.
Wow. And this is in Texas.
Yes, in Texas.
Do you know why they did that?
I Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was like isolation, so the other kids wouldn't see it, and think it was okay. And another thing is so that us who were already pregnant or had our babies already, wouldn't feel like we were the only ones.
Do you think it was good or bad?
Um, for me, it was fine. It didn't make me any never mind. I think I'm probably one of the only ones out of that class who graduated from high school, so it was fine for me. I didn't let me being pregnant or having a kid. I walked across the stage with a 3-year-old. So it didn't bother me.
And Shanti, how is your relationship with your mom right now?
It is tumultuous. It is. Um, there was a period of time, like after I had my therapy session, my assignment was to go and confront everyone. And she was on my list, her, my mom, my dad, well, my mom, my dad, my daughter, and some other people. I had to go and talk to them one by one and say, hey, you did this. This is what happened. This is how it made me feel, blah, blah, blah. So when I did that with her, um, she pretty much didn't listen to understand. She listened to respond. And, she's set in her ways basically and doesn't, want to hear it. She is quick to defend herself instead of just listening and, understanding. And some of the things I confronted her on then, she said it wasn't true. And it was true. So it's she's an avoider. My whole family pretty much is an avoider, and I've always been that black sheep of the family who says what it is, and nobody likes that. But that doesn't stop me from being me. So there was a period of time where I had to put her in timeout because she just was not getting it. That you have affected me. You are affecting me, and I quit talking to her for like 6 months, and we just finally started communicating again in January, this past January, but not much has changed. So I just keep her. I love her from afar.
How about your father?
Oh, me and my daddy talk probably 2 or 3 times a week. We have a great relationship. He's the open-minded one, non-judgmental, and I can say anything to him, and he won't judge me. He'll talk to me, and he'll tell me when I'm right and tell me when I'm wrong. So we have a great relationship.
How about your child? You said you kind of grew up together, kind of like sister.
Yeah, we did, and we have a good relationship now. We didn't when I moved here to Houston. She might have been 6 or 7 when I moved here, and during that time we started, not having a great relationship. And especially when she became a teenager, and I think I saw myself in her. I saw her going down the road that I was going down, and I did not want that for her. And I sent her to live with her with her other grandmother on her father's side, and because I knew that she would be able to, have that hand on her, to have her not making those mistakes, because I couldn't get help from my side of the family. Anytime I would go to them and say, hey, this is going on, their response was, you did that. Nobody did that to you. And like, that's not what I want to hear. I want you to help me. But of course, me sending her to live with her other grandmother caused us to not have a relationship at first. And then again, after therapy, she was another person that I talked to, and we clear the air, and we have been close. We get closer and closer every time we talk. So I love my baby, and she loves her mama.
Wow. And then is she accepting you for your gender as well?
Oh, she's fine. She's accepting. She's fine with it. She wasn't at first. I think I told her she was too young when I told her. She was probably 9 or 10 when I told her, and I think that was too young at the time back then because she had no clue. I never, let my kids see that side of me, so they didn't know. But when I told her, she cried. Yeah, she cried. She fine now though.
Wow. So now, how are you doing these days with realizing these, you know, I wouldn't say hidden, but layers of adversities and challenges that you didn't know it was a trauma,
Mhm.
it was traumatic events, and then that led to your nervous breakdown. And
Mhm.
how old were you? when it happened, like 2018?
Ooh, you gonna make me do some math. Hold on. Let's see.
No, no, no. Yeah. Were you in your
Uh,
like 20s or 30s?
I had to been in my 30s. Yeah, I
Okay.
was in my 30s when it happened.
Yeah. So for a long time, like 3 decades of your life,
Yeah,
like you just didn't know.
yeah, I had no clue until I went because and it took me so long because again, we were taught to, not tell our business to anyone. You keep it to yourself, suck it up and keep going. And that's what I was doing until I couldn't suck it up any longer and it just I came out. But my therapist taught me some great coping skills that I still use and I also teach to this day on, how to cope and how to handle things and how to heal from past traumas.
So we're gonna talk about that for the next question, but I just wanna shed a light a little bit as
Hmm.
um somebody who didn't realize these kind of layers of trauma and then having this complete nervous breakdown, anxiety that you didn't even know what it was
Hmm.
until somebody really figured it out. And then that you felt relieved that somebody actually gave you a diagnosis. How
Hmm.
was it so hard when you were in 30s when this occurred that nobody understood, including yourself, what was going on? How was it? Like, how do you remember how it felt like?
It was scary. It was scary as hell because it's like you literally cannot control it. You cannot control your emotions at all. You know how you ha 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 and stop laughing or cry and stop like we can do now. I could not. And I was doing everything but laughing. I was screaming and I had, it even started coming physically, where I felt like a tin man, and I was achy and tired, and it was a mess. And I was mainly scared because I thought I was dying or something. I didn't know what was wrong with me.
And you said medication never really helped.
No, it did not help. That and I think it was a mental thing with me because I did not want the medication. I think of medication as like a pacifier in a baby. You put the pacifier in the baby's mouth, the baby's gonna stop crying. But when you take it out, they're gonna holler again. And I also thought, if I do get on medication, I'm gonna have to stay on it. And get a higher dose and a higher dose because those doses aren't working. I didn't want that at all. I didn't want that at all. I didn't want to be addicted to anything. I wanted to figure out what the hell was wrong with me.
Well, Shanti, thank you so much for sharing your challenges and adversities.
Mhm.
So let's actually move on to the tools that you use to overcome. And
Mhm.
by far, this is my favorite part of the podcast because so many guests who came to the show shared very unique tools that people usually don't share. And it's been very helpful for me, and I'm
Mhm.
sure our audience as well. So, out of everything that you tried, what do you think the most helpful tools that you use to overcome these challenges?
The first thing is guided journaling. Guided journaling is when you think of journaling, you think of a blank notebook and you're just writing. Guided journaling, you're answering specific prompts according to the topic you want to, write about. And that my therapist taught me that. And that's how I was able to express myself, get it out on paper, write it down, and it helped me. So I once I saw that it was helping me just by answering questions, I decided to publish my own guided journals. So I have a series of guided journals to help people to, help themselves through their healing process. And I always say, use it with use it in conjunction with, you can use it by yourself if you don't want to go to therapy, or use it in therapy or coaching or support groups. And it helps. It really does. And that's what I do for a living now.
What are the questions in guided journal? I've never heard of it. Like, say, do you remember like any specific questions that really helped you in guided journal?
Yeah, because I had a lot of issues going on. So one of the issues I had was about self-esteem. I had very little to no self-esteem, but you would never know it because I didn't present myself that way. But internally, I did. So the specific question is describe yourself. That's a hard question, to answer, but you have to answer it if you want to, get through it and heal from it.
What are the other questions that you remember that helped you?
Um, Gratitude. What are you grateful for today? What how do you think other people see you as? Like anything revolving around, self-esteem.
How long did you do that?
I did that for a couple of months because I think that was one of my biggest issues, self-esteem. So it took a couple of months of me journaling about that.
So, what else did you use besides guided journal that helped you?
I After guided journaling, I incorporated breath work, especially box breathing. I love box breathing. That absolutely helps with my anxiety. And then I started doing guided meditation. Because I tried meditation on my own, and I'm like, okay, I can't even clear my mind to do it. But guided meditation helps me a lot. And I also do yoga now.
So, square box breathing
Hmm.
for the audience who is not watching the visual. How do you describe the box breathing?
Box breathing is, you could do it at 3, 4, 5, or 6 intervals. So when you're counting up 1, 2, 3, you're taking a deep inhale and you hold it for 3 or 4 seconds, and then you let it out, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, and you count again, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, and you inhale, and then you just repeat until you're calm.
So, you exhale when you have your finger going up,
You're inhaling.
or inhale. So, inhaling when the finger is going up, and then
Hold your breath.
when the finger is going horizontally in a
Yeah,
rectangle
you're
box,
holding your breath.
box breathing, and you
Mhm,
hold it as you're
mhm,
drawing the rectangle from
mhm,
left to right. And then when you
mhm.
drop down, what do you do?
Exhale. You're exhaling.
You're exhaling the vertical line,
Mhm.
and then from right to left, what do you do?
Holding your breath.
Also, you basically inhale, hold, exhale, hold.
Yes.
But then you draw rectangle. Do you do that with your finger when you're doing box
I don't do
breathing?
it anymore. I used to when I first started doing it. Now I can picture in my head. So I mean, there's no wrong way to do it.
So for
Whatever
the people
suits
who's
the
never done
case.
box breathing, I think it would be helpful to do it with the finger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
In the beginning, I used to do it with my finger.
sure, because I think the problem is, especially when you're having panic attack, anxiety, you just get such a shallow hyperventilating, and
Mhm,
to do it with the finger and the picture, and then I think that forces you to inhale longer, hold it longer, and
mhm.
then inhale, exhale longer than usual. Because when you're hyperventilating and then panic attack, during a panic attack, you're like, you can't
Yeah.
breathe, and that
Mhm.
makes it worse.
Yes, it absolutely does. It makes you feel like you're having a heart attack.
Yes, very, very hard.
Mhm.
So, guided journal,
Mhm.
box breathing, and meditation, guided meditation,
Mhm.
yoga. Those are
Yes.
something that you used.
Yes. I still use them to this day. Yes.
And then when you say you're helping other people, like a
Hmm.
mental health coach, how's that going? Is it helping you, you think?
Absolutely. Yes. Because I'm to a point where it's not about me anymore. My purpose is to help others because I don't want anyone to ever go through what I went through with the nervous breakdown. That was not fun. I do not recommend at all. So, my goal is to catch the person before they get to that point. And just to let them know it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to express yourself. It's just a matter of who you're talking to. You can't talk to everyone because everyone isn't qualified to help you. When we want to talk to someone, we normally talk to our parents or our best friends or family members, and unless they are qualified to help you, they can't help you at all.
And sometimes they can traumatize you, or they can cause
Exactly, they
conflict.
can make it worse.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can call your boss, and they can like start a rumor.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, you would think that people wouldn't do that, but people will do that.
So how are you getting your clients? Is that word of mouth or like your social?
Social, I'm on social media. I have a support group that I facilitate once a week on sharewellnow.com. So I get them like that. And I email. I'm in the streets. I'm everywhere. I'm trying to be everywhere to get the word out about, taking care of your mental health.
What are your winning moments by doing this work, and especially after you went through what you went through of all the layers of adversities? Were there any clients that had like expressed, "Oh my gosh, Shanti, thank you so much for being there. Thank you for helping me."
Yes. All the time, all the time. And sometimes they're not even a client. They're just following me on my social media and I'll get a DM. I'm glad you're doing this. You're helping so many people. That's it. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to see. And after I wrote my book, I wrote a book too. It's called Quiet as Kept. And I tell the entire, story of, how I went through all of that. I went through up until I had my mental breakdown. And the people who have bought that, all of them have giving me great feedback about it. So I'm excited about that because that's what I wrote it for, to help others.
Sometimes when you are super emotionally injured and having this PTSD and trauma that you don't even know of, and then now you know of, and then super aware of what happened to you, and then what helped you. I think somebody like you or like myself who had seen hell, and
Hmm.
when people go through challenges, we know, you and I know, that person just needs to be held or listened. Sometimes just give them a hug, and you don't have to like give them perfect advice or criticize. Sometimes they just need
Exactly.
support.
Sometimes we just want to be heard. And it takes someone who has been there and done that to know when somebody wants your advice or when they want you to just listen and support them in that capacity.
I am very happy that you found your purpose and niche, that you're somebody who people can trust in a way that maybe other people who never been through teen pregnancy, been through
Mhm.
abuse, been through coming out, and you know mental breakdowns, you just become that much, unfortunately, but maybe in a good way, trustworthy for people who just kind of not completely, but maybe losing a hope.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to talk to somebody you can't trust or who hasn't had some type of similar experience that you've had. And that's why I'm so transparent about my story, so I can let people know, hey, you are not alone. I've gone through this too, and this is what happened. This is how I handled it. And, I let them know it's okay. It is okay.
I've had many public speaking opportunities, fortunately, and whenever I talk about my child sex abuse, unfortunately, some people remain after people leave, come to me and tell me that they went through the same story. However, I am the first person that they even told. And that bothers me, and that is, I don't want to say honored, but I feel worthy of doing this podcast as well as public speech, that I have to, not have to, that I want to share my vulnerability so that people can be vulnerable and that people can feel that it's a safe place that they
Exactly.
can share. And then I just want to encourage you as well and others that we have so much freaking stigma for mental health,
Yes.
for abuse, teen
Yeah.
pregnancy, coming
Hmm.
out, and you know, a lot of things that, oh, you shouldn't say that on social, or you shouldn't say that to people. And then, no, 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 listen, why can't I say that when it was something out of my control? I didn't choose, like you said, to be abused. But then,
Exactly.
how can people say, hey, I have cancer? Hey, I was in car accident. How can nobody say, hey, you shouldn't say that? But when it was child sex abuse, when it was a rape, a teen pregnancy, or whatever, something tells people to stop saying that. And I feel that's second and third layer of shockwave and abuse and more traumatic things after the fact that you were traumatized.
Because nobody wants to hear the truth. The truth hurts. And unfortunately, teen pregnancy is a reality. Domestic violence, sexual abuse, those are realities that, you know, more times than not, when people say, you shouldn't talk about that, it has either happened to them or to someone in their family. And they were told to be quiet about it. Don't say anything. We'll get through this. We're a family. We have to stick together, that type of stuff. And no, there's no excuse for any of that at all, especially the sexual abuse part. Absolutely not. And it makes people uncomfortable to talk about those things, but people need to get uncomfortable because this is a reality. And I don't foresee it going away anytime soon.
I feel like more people like you, myself, the movie She Said about Harvey Weinstein, and
Mhm.
after the movie came out, I saw the YouTube video of this Italian model. She's in her 20s. When Harvey went to jail, the reporter asked her, because she was one of the one who collaborated with the police, trying to find out his sexual assault and stuff.
Mhm.
And then when she was helping other women to, testify, she testified to when he was sentenced to jail. The interviewer said, so what do you think of the final judgment? And then she said, well, that's where he deserves to be. And I thought I was very strong because this
Yeah.
man was basically the biggest Hollywood director producer, controlling a lot of things with wealth as well. So I feel like younger generations, especially, they
Mhm.
are more like, aware of what's
Yeah.
right, what's wrong, and they are
Right.
aware that they have a voice, unlike
Mhm.
my generation,
Mine too.
or in Japan. But I feel this advocacy work and then the groundbreaking or ground paving, the work that we are doing right now as
Mhm.
well is so, so important.
It is. It is very important, and if only we can help one person per day, that is enough, you know, just keep going every day. It's not easy, getting up on platforms and talking about it, constantly, but it needs to be done. And if not us, then who?
Well, Shanti, thank you so much. So my last question is a gift that came from adversity. So what would you say the gift that came from this adversity?
The gift is I'm a certified mental health coach, and I, coach women, specifically women, to, release, heal, and live their best lives. And I use guided journaling to do that. I never in a million years thought I would be coaching anybody doing anything. I didn't even want to have a business. I planned on retiring from my 9 to 5. But, after this experience I had, it is my duty to share, and to help people and to educate people on, it's not okay to be quiet. Use your voice. We are all human. We all gone through things, but it's how you handle those things. And I never want anyone to harm themselves because of something they're holding on to, or harm someone else because something that person did to them. you know People need to feel safe, and they need to feel that they can talk about their issues and get help for them without feeling ashamed or criticized or judged. And I provide that platform.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. M- My last ask is, if there's somebody listening to this episode, what would be the best advice that you can give for people, especially who's going through um same adversity that you went through? What is your biggest advice?
Let's see. I would tell the person that, you know, it is okay that, you're not okay. It's okay to not be okay. It is doing more harm than good for you holding on to whatever it is you're holding on to. And to get the help you need. If you need help, don't be afraid to ask for help. No one knows you need help unless you say so. No one can make you go get help, but at least acknowledge that, you need help. And there are resources out here that allow you to get the help that you need. And if you don't know of any resources, you can contact someone like myself or Miss Juri. Then we can, find you the help that you need in your area. Help is out there. You just have to ask for it. You have to go get it, and you do it for yourself. It's not for anyone else. It is for you. It is not to please mom, dad, whoever. It is strictly for you to take care of yourself and to put yourself first for once.
Beautifully said. Thank you very much, Shanti. This was very important and rich conversation, and I really hope that this podcast and then our conversation will help somebody who might be struggling out there, or just even have a conversation about this topic. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. And thank you to our audience for tuning in and sharing. I have more guests coming in scheduled all the way till a couple months. So stay tuned and then see you next time.